F-4C Phantom II. Usage in battles. The F-4C Phantom II relies on brute force to get its job done. With this version of the Phantom II, there is no protective armor, there are no defensive weapons, and there are no countermeasures to ward off the enemy and the weapons they bring to the table. As a brute, the Phantom II muscles its way into a fight. It brings the big guns, whether it is cannons, rockets, bombs, missiles, or any combination of them, and when it does bring them, it brings lots of them. When attacking a Phantom, don't assume it is just a fighter, interceptor, or bomber, as it can switch roles on the fly depending on its suspended armament loadout and what needs to be done. Air-to-air. The F-4C Phantom II was originally developed to be an all-weather fleet defensive interceptor for the U.S. Navy. However, that role was already taken by the Vought F-8 Crusader, so going back to the drawing board, McDonnell engineers reconfigured the Phantom II so that it can be more versatile and be configured with weapons to suit the mission needed or the branch of military it would be flying for. 1. Though large and intimidating, the Phantom II is a fast-moving beast of an aircraft which can hold its own in air-to-air combat. Due to its size and weight, turn fighting is not the best way to handle the aircraft, as with its speed, acceleration and climbing abilities, it can boom and zoom with the best of them. Typically 2 weapons can be mounted which help this fighter excel in combat of this type, and which are AIM-9B Sidewinder missiles and M61 Vulcan cannons, in a configuration of 1 or 3. The Vulcan cannons can spray the area in front of the Phantom II with an insane amount of 20mm rounds, especially when 3 gun pods are mounted, which almost has a shotgun scatter effect by the time it gets to where the enemy fighter is, and should put enough holes in it with a few quick bursts to get a critical or even just destroy the enemy aircraft. Sometimes the cannons may not be the right option, and for this, the AIM-9B comes into play. The Sidewinder missile is very effective and has a very low failure rate, though, in the hands of a good pilot, an enemy fighter does have a chance to evade the missile. The F-4C Phantom II carries 4 AIM-9Bs and can utilize them to spook an enemy aircraft which might have an energy advantage to attempt energy bleeding maneuvers to avoid the missile, only inadvertently actually setting them up for an easy flyby kill with the Phantom II's cannons. Missiles are also helpful for finishing off enemies that are unable to dodge them due to battle damage or a lack of energy. Rockets are another option for this aircraft. However, for air-to-air combat, the folding fin aerial rockets are the best bet of the 3, as they were designed to be fired off in large groups to take down large bombers. However, the Phantom II can make use of them not only with bombers, but also against fighters attempting a head-on pass, or even aircraft landing on the airfield in domination matches, as a salvo of missiles will end short their attempt to capture the airfield. Ground pounding. The F-4C Phantom II was not called a mud mover for anything, as with its legendary suspended ordnance options it can quickly reshape the landscape with bombs and rockets. One of the other configurations the McDonnell engineers designed the Phantom II for was to fit the role of a bomber. The bomb options for the Phantom II range from 250, 500, 750, and 1,000 pounds bombs, which will allow this fighter/bomber to virtually attack any ground target on the map, to include large bases. As a bonus, once all of the bombs have been dropped, the F-4 will not be a sitting duck while waiting for the reload timer, arcade, or when heading back to base, realistic in simulator, to reload, as each loadout option includes one 20mm gun pod to allow for a continued attack. Zuni and FFAR Might Mouse rockets can be used for great effect on vehicles and anti-aircraft sites, especially those which are clustered close together. However, against heavy pillboxes and heavy tanks they might not do much. The final option is to outfit the AGM-12B or AGM-12C bullpup rockets. These rockets are a mixed bag for the pilot, as they excel at being used against tanks due to their 250 pounds warhead. However, on the flip side, these rockets are MCLOS, manual command line of sight, which requires the Phantom II pilot to guide the rocket all the way to the target. Any cause for pilot deviation could potentially throw the bullpup off course. During the guiding phase of bullpup on the way to the target, a Phantom II is vulnerable, as the pilot cannot be looking around for incoming enemy aircraft and must keep a visual on the target until the rocket hits its target. Bait attack. The F-4C Phantom II is a phenomenal aircraft to use in a group maneuver known as a baiting attack. This fighter can play both roles as either the bait or an attacking aircraft. For this to work, the Phantom II can be used as the bait aircraft, which flies in a way to attract the attention of an enemy fighter or two. After closing in, the Phantom II should use its speed and acceleration to go into a climb, almost like setting up for a rope-a-dope maneuver. While the enemy aircraft are attempting to chase the F-4 in the climb, the group buddies can swoop in and take out the distracted enemy aircraft. Due to the fast speed and acceleration of the F-4, it can also be used as the support aircraft in the maneuver as with its cannons and missiles. It can lunge in to take out the baited enemy fighters. Most dangerous enemies. MiG fighters tend to be the most dangerous enemies, especially the MiG-21 variants, which are quite agile and can typically outmaneuver the F-4. The max speed of the MiG-21 is comparable with the F-4, whereas the earlier MiG-17 and 19 will get left in the dust as they are almost only half as fast. The early MiG-21 variants like the MiG-21 F-13 and J-72 can carry R-3S/PL-2 missiles similar to the AIM-9B, but inferior to the AIM-9E. They can also be equipped with rockets, and the internal 30mm cannons can rip through the F-4C Phantom II with careful aiming. The bet against a MiG-21 is to attempt to first cripple the aircraft either during a head-on approach or through a missile, rocket, or gun attack. Once it is operating at less than 100%, it will be easier to maneuver around it and set up for the killing blow. Be wary of the MiG-21 SMT and MiG-21 MF, as they can carry up to 4 or 60 air-to-air missiles with high agility and limited high-aspect capability. PROS and CONS PROS centerline gun pod is available in all loadout configurations no matter the desired secondary ordnance, but can also be removed in certain loadouts for a performance boost. Wide variety of payload options to include 20mm cannons, rockets, missiles and bombs. One of the fastest aircraft in the game, pushing Mach 2. Has access to the fantastic AIM-9 Sidewinders air-to-air missiles. Fantastic rate of climb. Excellent acceleration. Good roll rate for a larger aircraft. M61 Vulcan is devastating to enemy aircraft, especially when 3 gun pods are outfitted. CONS. The gun pods are pointed slightly downwards, pilot must adjust aim to compensate. Large target profile compared to other fighters it will fly against. Poor turning ability unless using minimum fuel. When maxed out at 24T, 21,800 kg/48,000 lb, maneuverability suffers. Using wing-mounted hard points will break wings at low altitudes, while flying Mach plus 1.10. Description: the F-4C Phantom II is a rank 6 American jet fighter with a battle rating of 10.7. It was introduced in Update 1.91 Night Vision. The development of fighter aircraft attempts to balance size, speed, armament, and maneuverability to come up with the perfect fighter. Due to the difficulties and challenges of bundling all of these in one aircraft, many varieties have been developed through the years which highlighted one or more aspects, but rarely all in one. And sometimes the mold had to be broken, and the motto "bigger is better" came into play. Due to these, such heavyweight fighters like the P-61, Mi-410, Beaufighter, J-5N1, and SM.91 were developed to fly faster, remain maneuverable, and carry heavier weapons and ordnance, sometimes much heavier than their lighter counterparts. The F-4C Phantom II is no exception. Originally developed as a souped-up F-3H Demon, this fighter was modified into a larger, heavier, faster fighter interceptor/bomber that the U.S. Navy didn't realize it needed, and when it did, it went all in. 1. The imposing F-4C Phantom II can seem a bit intimidating at first due to its size, but the pilot will quickly find that with the dual J79 GE-15 engines that this fighter is no slouch. Going from takeoff, acceleration in a climb, and to level flight, the F-4C Phantom II will move, and is quite agile for an aircraft of its size. More than capable as a dogfighter, it however has many options up its sleeve to deal with enemy aircraft it may encounter. Pilots new to the F-4C Phantom II will initially be set up with an M61 20mm cannon. Due to this aircraft not being configured with an internal cannon, one was required to be mounted on a centerline pylon. Options become available to mount 2 additional 20mm cannon gun pods, one under each wing, which altogether will spew out a slew of 20mm rounds acting like a shotgun effect, even at 500 m. AIM-9B and AIM-9E Sidewinder missiles round out the Phantom's anti-air capabilities, and are solid missiles to use against enemy aircraft, which will cause the enemy pilot to take evasive maneuvers to avoid the missile. In the event that happens, be ready with the cannons for backup, as the enemy pilot should be an easy target after bleeding all of their speed and energy avoiding the missile. Another arena where the F-4C Phantom II shines is in the ground pounding, or ground attack function of the aircraft. With 11 hardpoints, this fighter/bomber can be configured in many different ways to carry a combination of guns, bombs, and rockets. When it comes to bombs, the F-4C Phantom II has the option to use either 250 pounds, 500 pounds, 750 pounds, or 1,000 pounds bombs, and can hold upwards of 9,000 pounds total. The Phantom also has 3 different rocket types to choose from, depending on the targets you are going after. These range from anti-tank AGM-12B and AGM-12C bullpup guided rockets, Zuni Mk-32 anti-tank rockets, and the small but powerful FFAR Mighty Mouse in a volume of 228, which can be devastating when used in mass. The amazing F-4 Phantom II was state-of-the-art in its day, and even 60 years later, several countries are still utilizing this iconic fighter/bomber as a force multiplier with their air forces today. This fighter, coupled with a pilot's skill and determination, can help alter the outcome in the jet battle matches. The F-4C Phantom II is an incredibly stable aircraft, however, from the way its wingtips and tailplanes look, one might think otherwise. Due to extensive wind tunnel testing, McDonnell engineers determined that by canting the tailplanes downward at a 23 degrees anhedral inclination, the stability and stall recovery characteristics of the aircraft dramatically improved, and in the same fashion they didn't interfere with the engine's jet exhaust. The wings, on the other hand, were developed to be extremely strong to support large suspended armaments. However, they needed to be given a 5 degrees upward inclination, though, to prevent having to redesign the entire wing. The engineers elected to just raise the wingtips at 12 degrees dihedral, which averaged the wing at the necessary 5 degrees. The iconic shape of the F-4C Phantom II was set. 1. With the airframe, wings and tailplanes set in place, the fighter became a stable and solid aircraft. Stability is especially critical with a jet which closes in on the Mach 2 mark. Early speed trials identified flaws in the aircraft which at times proved fatal, but corrections and modifications for later aircraft increased their stability and airworthiness, which saved many pilots with damaged aircraft. The F-4C Phantom II is powered by 2 General Electric J79 GE-15 engines, which are necessary to keep the fighter/bomber in the sky, especially with heavy ordnance loads. However, these engines don't bog down too much under heavy loads, as it will still accelerate in a climb, during level flight, and during a dive. A testament to the jet and its engines, during one altitude test, the F-4 flew Mach 2 all the way to 90,000 feet, where the engines were shut off and the plane coasted up to 98,000 feet, slowing to almost 45 miles per hour, and upon dropping back to Earth, fired up its engines at around 70,000 feet and successfully landed. The Phantom II has the speed and acceleration, and also has sufficient maneuverability. As a low-altitude bomber, the F-4C Phantom II needed to be maneuverable, or else it would have been an easier target for either the MiG fighters or the anti-aircraft ground fire. Even with heavy ordnance loads, the Phantom II could still shimmy into position, release its ordnance, and then rocket away to a higher altitude. Pilots found out early on that some MiG fighters, like the -17, were extremely maneuverable, and had to be prepared to nullify the target to prevent the MiG from getting behind them. For the F-4C Phantom II pilot, it is important when bombing targets to keep a look around and watch for enemy fighters attempting to swoop in, attack the ground target, and rocket up to safety. When flying at altitude, be careful not to get into a turning fight, as the Phantom is a very heavy aircraft and does not turn very well. Instead, fly fast and work with boom and zoom techniques, and always watch your 6, as a MiG may try to sneak up from behind. Due to the sheer weight of the F-4C Phantom II, it is surprising to note that there is no armor plating nor any bulletproof canopies. Littered with 8 fuel tanks, 1 in each wing and the other 6 in the fuselage right above the engines, there isn't much protection for the self-sealing tanks. The Phantom pilot will need to be cognizant of where enemy aircraft are behind them to ensure they prevent their aircraft from taking damage, as speed and maneuverability are the keys to survival, and if lost, there is not much hope for the fighter. For those aircraft attacking the F-4C Phantom II, when using machine guns and cannons you can try to blow off a wing or snipe the pilot. However, your best bet will be to aim for center fuselage, where you have the greatest chance of hitting several fuel tanks or even the engines. Firing missiles will cause the pilot to take evasive maneuvers, which may cause the aircraft to pitch up or down, which will expose the greatest surface area, allowing your guns or cannons to finish the fight. As for without any armor, only the thin metal skin separates the incoming bullets from critical F-4C Phantom II components. Armaments. It is rare for a fighter not to have any native offensive weapons. Typically this is a situation you would find on a bomber. The F-4C Phantom II is unique in that what it lacks in offensive weapons, it more than makes up for in suspended weapons. With a total of 11 hardpoint pylons, an array of guns, bombs, rockets and missiles can be added, fully customizing the mission to suit the needs of the pilot. The pilot has the choice of configuring for air-to-air, air-to-ground, or a mixture of both. Bombs and bullpup rockets are ground attack only, missiles are air-to-air attack only, while the cannons, Zuni and FFAR rockets can be used for both. In regards to air-to-air combat, the F-4C Phantom II is hard-pressed to find a competitor on equal footing, but that can be found with an exceptional pilot flying a less than equal aircraft. This fighter is fast, and with its speed, it can relatively sneak up on enemy fighters by closing the gap on the field with its twin J-79 GE-15 engines. Once in place and the enemy is in range, two options are available: guns or missiles. The M61 Vulcan cannon can spew 20mm rounds at the rate of just over 6,000 rounds per minute, roughly 100 per second. Now multiply that by 3. If the Phantom is configured for 3 gun pods, and you can see devastating firepower, which will be difficult for any enemy aircraft to avoid. Even just quick bursts at a maneuvering fighter can be enough to inflict critical damage, or even blowing off a wing. Ground attack with the guns can be effective on lighter armored vehicles with just a few quick bursts. The AIM-9B and AIM-9E Sidewinders are the missile options available for the F-4C Phantom II. During the Vietnam War, when U.S. Air Force models of the Phantom like the F-4C and F-4D began operations, they did so without the capability of mounting AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles as the Navy models did, instead using the AIM-4 Falcon. Falcons had gained a reputation of not being reliable, not firing, not tracking, not exploding, so several squadrons had their fighters field modified with the ability to mount their trusted Sidewinder missiles. Here on the F-4C Phantom II, for Sidewinders are available, and are effective at hounding down an aircraft when a lock is acquired. However, they are not guaranteed to hit, as a competent pilot can avoid them with hard maneuvering, flying towards the sun, etc. However, these actions will often hamper the target's speed and situational awareness, making them an easier target to clean up with the cannons. Zuni and FFAR rockets can be utilized effectively against bombers, or even against other fighters, especially during a head-on. Though unguided and not very accurate, usually a salvo of these rockets is enough to cause an enemy to panic into an unexpected maneuver. Usage of these rockets on ground targets works very well too. Again, with them being unguided, shooting them en masse ensure a greater possibility of one or more to hit the target. The AGM-12B bullpup rockets are excellent rockets to use against ground targets. However, the one drawback is that it needs to be guided in by the pilot, so if there are any distractions to the pilot, the rocket will likely go off course and miss the target. 9,000 pounds. Yes, you read that number correctly. The F-4C Phantom II can carry up to 9,000 pounds of bombs, which is half of what a B-29 bomber could carry. However, the Phantom is quite a bit more accurate, dropping from much lower altitudes. Using combinations of 250, 500, 750 and 1,000 pounds bombs allows the pilot to pick targets accordingly. To ensure the F-4C Phantom II is not left defenseless after the bombs are away, each configuration has at least one 20mm cannon pod and or AIM-9B missiles to go with it.